Superman, a character who has spanned 75 years, can be pretty intimidating to new comic book readers, especially when they don't know where to begin reading thanks to DC's numerous reboots in the last number of years. In this video, I'll explain the current status of Superman in the DC universe and explains which comics you can read to get up to date with the Man of Steel's history going into Rebirth. So before the New 52 and before Flashpoint, we had the normal DCU. Throughout this video, I'll be calling this Prime Earth. This Earth is the main DC universe, having existed for 75 years, only being majorly rebooted in the 80s thanks to Crisis of Infinite Earths. Other than a few events either reshaping parts of that universe, it has stayed largely intact since the 1980s. In 2011, Flashpoint happened when Flash went back in time to try and save his mother from Reverse Flash. In doing so, he created an alternate history where he, aided by the Batman of that universe, Thomas Wayne, tried to send him back. The New 52 was created when this happened. As of DC Rebirth, we learned that that exact moment Flash tried to restore his history, Dr. Manhattan from the Watchmen stole 10 years from the universe, shaping them into the New 52 and overriding the Prime Earth's history, replacing it with the rebooted universe. During the New 52 series Convergence, Superman of the Prime Earth, Flash, Parallax Hal Jordan, and others were sent back to the Crisis in an attempt to restore their times. During these events, Superman from the Prime Earth and his wife Lois Lane and their newly born son John were dropped at the beginning of the New 52, where Clark hid his activities as Superman, allowing the New 52 Superman to be the main Superman of that universe. Recently, the New 52 Superman, thanks to most recent events happening through his comics and through the comics of Justice League, has found out that he is dying. This event led to the two Supermen meeting, with the New 52 Superman telling Prime Earth Superman to take over him when he dies. Thanks to Kid Flash using the Speed Force to access the New 52 universe, he has opened it up to be reborn back into the Prime DC universe. With the New 52 Superman dead, Prime Earth Superman is now poised to take over his position as the Superman of this new reborn DC universe. Now that Rebirth has sort of taken advantage of this whole timeline sort of thing, we're back to basically the old DC universe. We have the original Superman back and not the New 52 Superman. So I'm going to talk about his origins and books people can pick up to sort of talk about his origins and his first adventures as Superman. Now, there are a few different origins of Superman out there, all of which are pretty brilliant. The first one is John Byrne's awesome Man of Steel series from the mid-80s. This was used to update Superman's Smallville and Kryptonian origins after Crisis of Infinite Earths. However, this one was later negated by other origins, which I'll talk about now. Next is Mark Waid's Superman Birthright. Again, this updated Superman's origins for the early 2000s, and Mark's goal was to create an origin that could connect with new and old fans alike, as well as fans of TV and film adaptations of the character. Lastly is the one I highly recommend people read and is actually the origin people should read for Superman, and that is Jeff Johns' Superman's Secret Origin. This is my go-to origin story for Superman, and like Byrne's Man of Steel, Secret Origin was a reboot of Superman's origins after the Infinite Crisis event. This new origin was slowly released, showcasing Kryptonian characteristics that were similar with Richard Donner's Superman films of the 70s and 80s. In Action Comics 850, the origin story began, leading a young Clark on adventures as Superboy, as well as adventures with the Legion of Superheroes, returning to the story of Superboy teaming up with the Legion into canon. Clark's arrival to Metropolis and subsequent meetings with famous characters such as Lois Lane, Metallo, and Lex Luthor are also added into his origin, with Lex Luthor even growing up in Smallville with him to mirror the TV show Smallville. This origin is absolutely fantastic, and I suggest, since that Jeff Johns actually wrote Rebirth, that people should read this as well, since this is the exact Superman that will be in Rebirth. Of course, he's had a bunch of adventures since then, so he's slightly changed a little bit, but for the most part it's that. And I would not be surprised if Johns actually references his past work like he has been doing in Rebirth with Legion and Flash Rebirth and all those sort of things. So I would not put him past him to actually reference this in later stories, whether like Justice League or Superman or something. So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens. After you get through Superman's origins, you probably wonder where to go from here. Now this really depends on what you really want to read about the character. If you want something like a team-up book, in that case you could go with Superman Batman. The great thing about this series is that you can literally pick up any volume and get to know the story and not have to worry about, having read past issues. They're all pretty much self-contained storylines and story arcs, and that's really great. I think there's maybe a couple that sort of reference past, but they're really just that. They're just like offhand references to what these heroes have done in the past, and something you don't really need to know, maybe, just to enjoy the story. The runs I can't recommend enough are Search for Kryptonite, which sees Superman and Batman cleaning up all the kryptonite on Earth after an accident almost kills Superman. I talked about this in one of my videos about the best Superman books. It's really brilliant. The next is Absolute Power, where time travelers tamper with the two heroes' origins, resulting in them becoming tyrannical leaders, leading heroes rising against them. As another really great story, and one that kind of threw me for a loop when I first read it, since I didn't really know what to expect, and like the opening of one of the issues has Superman and Batman sort of kill Green Arrow, and I was like, wait, what is going on? And it was a brilliant story, really liked it. If team-ups aren't your thing and you want some books that show off the characteristics that make Superman Superman, read Up, Up and Away and its sequel Back in Action. While both books are aftermaths of Infinite Crisis, you don't need to have read that event to understand what is happening, since the book shows and tells you how Superman was affected by that event and left powerless. It's also a great series that showcases that even without powers, Clark continues being Superman the only way he can be, as an investigative reporter for the Daily Planet. We also get some cameos from some great characters such as Green Lantern, Hawkgirl, and Supergirl. The sequel Back in Action shows Superman back with his powers facing off against an alien auctioneer who plans to capture him, his cousin, and a third Kryptonian on Earth that Superman does not know about. This sequel is actually really great because a lot of the people on Earth don't trust Superman since he's just come back, and the last time that happened, a whole city was destroyed and there were doppelgangers of him running around like the Cyborg Superman and Superboy and everything. So people were really on the fence about him, and that was another part of the story. Like the front cover of the story as well is even like a newspaper, like, is this the real Superman? So it's a really great collection of stories. And the great thing about these two stories in general, and I've talked about them quite a bit on this channel and on other channels, is that these two are gateways into the next 2 to 3 years of Superman stories, since Back in Action leads into the last son of Krypton, which has General Zod's infant son arrive on Earth and being taken in by Clark and Lois. That of course leads to an event where General Zod comes back and his army of Kryptonians sort of take over the world for a little bit there, and Superman has to team up with Lex Luthor and the Superman Death Squad and everything. It's a really cool story. Again, I think that's by Jeff Johns and Richard Donner, so really cool people writing that story. And then that leads into the events of Superman Brainiac, and I think even if you pick up the Superman Last Son of Krypton trade, I think it even comes with Superman Brainiac as like the end story as well, because I mean that's what happened with my trade paperback of that, so maybe you get like a 2-for-1 there. And this story sees him deal with Brainiac, like the real Brainiac, and I think it also got made into an animated movie. I don't think the animated movie was too good though. And this story leads into one of the most important stories of Superman's history, and that's the world of New Krypton, which sees the Kryptonian race come back to life after Clark is able to resize Kandor. They sort of inhabit the same solar system and even the same Earth as humans, and this leads to all sorts of trouble, which results in a massive war with Superman and his family, like Supergirl and all that, caught in the middle of it. And it spanned like a year and a half, and it was written by James Robinson and a bunch of other really cool writers. Absolutely fantastic books. Now it also led to a series I think called Last Stand on New Krypton, and then War of the Superman, which is like Superman and Zod facing each other and everything. It was really great. They were really cool. From this series you should feel comfortable to pick up any Superman book book and know about this character and, you know, his supporting characters and who's who and everything, since those stories do a pretty good job of showcasing almost all of his rogues gallery in one point or another. I know New Krypton, that arc is just full of them and full of new characters as well that are really cool. And that about wraps up this video here. I hope some people found this a bit insightful and sort of cleared up a little bit of confusion that DC has sort of brought upon us with DC Rebirth and them sort of keeping everything under the table and close to their chest and not revealing too much. And I know there were a couple of people that actually came to me and were actually really confused about, you know, how is Superman alive when he's dying in this comic and all this stuff was happening and everything. So I hope this video sort of helped you understand a little bit about what is exactly going on leading into DC Rebirth. I hope people are excited for DC Rebirth. I know I really am. I'm really glad they're going back to the roots of what made DC great, their legacies and, you know, superhero families and everything. Really looking forward to see what they're going to be doing with that and how long they're going to keep up with it, I guess. It's going to be really interesting. I'm really excited going into DC Rebirth, and I hope everyone else is. Keep an eye out on Fortress of Solitude for more videos like this in the near future.